Hello, everyone. My name is Elisa Ewan, and I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations at Teachers College. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for our first Alumni Career Development webinar series this academic year, featuring Jane Brown and Jessica Sarles-Dinsick. The webinar series covers a range of career topics and includes speakers from a variety of backgrounds. The series is co-sponsored by the TC Office of Career Education and Professional Development and the Office of Alumni Relations. The video of past webinars are available on our website at www.tc.edu/alumni/career-webinars. Today, alumnae Jane Brown and Jessica Sarles-Dinsick present Leaning In, Leaning On, Why Mentorship Matters, especially for women. Jane Brown currently oversees the stewardship program in the advancement division at Lemoyne College in Syracuse, New York. She has worked for several universities and educational nonprofits, including NYU and TC, in a variety of student development, academic administrative, and research roles. She has published in the fields of education and psychology and has taught workshops on higher education policy, intercultural competence, and women's leadership and mentoring. For the past 5 years, Jane has nurtured her passion for women's leadership and career mentoring by presenting numerous conference sessions. She was named a star faculty member at the CASE conference in February 2019 for her session on this topic. Jane is a proud member of the TC Alumni Council and loves encouraging her fellow TC alumni to stay involved at TC. She holds an MA in developmental psychology from TC and has additional coursework in counseling psychology. Jessica Sarles-Dinsick is the Associate Dean for International Programs and Special Projects in the School of General Studies at Columbia University and finds constant inspiration in international education's capacity to bring people together across borders, languages, and contexts. Charged with overseeing GS relationships to its international partner universities such as Sciences Po in France, City University of Hong Kong, and Trinity College Dublin, Jessica also leads the development of new international programs, partnerships, and strategies. She is deeply interested in how policy and theory lead to professional practice with a special emphasis on inclusive leadership and mentorship. Jessica holds a master's degree from Teachers College in International Educational Development. Before we begin, I just want to note that if you have any issues with the audio, please chat me directly in the chat box. And now, without further ado, here's Jane and Jessica.
Thank you so much, Elisa. My name is Jessica Sarles-Dinsick. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with everyone participating wherever you might be in the world, and we're thrilled to be kicking off the webinar series for this fall. Again, I've mentioned my name is Jessica Sarles-Dinsick, and I am the Associate Dean for International Programs here in the School of General Studies at Columbia. My job is to really ensure partnerships and program development around the world, which is really exciting. But my hobby in my spare time is to think about and talk with other people about mentorship and inclusive leadership. I'm really thrilled to be joined by someone who I consider a dear friend and mentor, and that is Jane Brown. So Jane, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Great, thanks, Jessica. I also would like to welcome everyone to our webinar today. Thank you for joining us. Jessica and I were introduced to each other through the world of international education in New York City, and we discovered our mutual passion for the topic of women's leadership and mentoring. This is a topic that we've presented on both together and with other friends and colleagues in higher education over the past 5 years. I'd like to give a shout out to other women from TC who have been on this journey with us. Our knowledge has certainly been enriched by their participation over the past couple of years.
Absolutely.
So next we'll go to what our goals are for the session. So we're going to learn a little bit about why mentoring is especially important for women. We're going to learn a few key facts about mentoring because as TC alumni, you know that everything must be supported by good research. We're going to discuss how to be a good mentor or mentee. Jessica and I will share our personal stories on how we found mentors in our own lives and the mentoring that we've done for others. And lastly, we want to have you be active participants in this webinar and share what you think to be the most important takeaway from the session. So next, I'd like to start off this session that focuses on women's mentorship with a great inspiring quote from a man. Nicholas Kristof is one of my heroes. And certainly this quote, "The greatest untapped resource around the globe is not gold or oil, but the female half of the population." The book whose cover you see there, he wrote with his wife, Cheryl Wu Dun, and it comes from a Chinese proverb that says, "Women hold up half the sky."
And as Jane mentioned, we do want you to participate throughout this presentation today and to share your thoughts and your feedback with us. We have a Poll Everywhere poll that is going to be embedded throughout the presentation, but I also want to make sure that everyone has a chance to follow the link that you see at the bottom of the presentation here, pollev.com/ part of my name, Jessica Sarl, without the S on the end, 406. And if you visit that URL side by side with the GoToWebinar software, you'll be able to follow along and participate in today's presentation as we ask questions. And of course, we want you to ask questions at the end. We definitely want this to be very much as much of a conversation as we can facilitate today. So we're going to jump in with the first question, the first active participation question, with a little bit of a pop quiz. And without Googling, without going to the Google machine, we want to know what you think. Compared to men at similar points in their careers, how much less likely is it for a woman to have a sponsor? And one thing that I'll note here is we're using the words sponsor and mentor interchangeably today. So feel free to, again, go to the URL there, or actually just text to the, and I see some answers coming in. We'll give it another few minutes, or a couple seconds really. So is it 21% less likely, 37% less likely, 54%, or 61%? We're evenly divided at the moment. I feel like we should have Jeopardy music, but we'll move on. So we've got one question here that I see some folks have answered. We'll move on to the next question, and then we'll actually answer those questions for you. And so compared to men at similar points in their careers, how much less likely are women to get advice from senior leadership, either in or outside of their organization? I encourage you to let us know what you think. Okay. And Jane, I'll turn it over. Oh, we've got some more answers coming in. Anyone else?
Okay, so let's see what the answers are. So one of the reasons why is mentoring important? So the reason the picture of the match is there is because Aristotle said a mentor should ignite the fire within you. So now let's look at some of the data behind mentoring, especially for women. So women are 54% less likely to have a sponsor than a man at work. Interesting, isn't it? And then the next piece of data is that women are 24% less likely to get advice from senior leaders. Women with mentors, the next fact, women with mentors are more likely to ask for stretch assignments that get them noticed at work. And women with mentors are much more likely to ask for raises. And we're going to take a look at some of the wage disparity that still exists. And, that's certainly tied in with this. And lastly, one thing that we hear over and over again is to not rule out peers as mentors or to look at various methods of getting mentorship, and some of that can include group mentoring.
And so one thing that we found interesting in starting to put together today's presentation was not only the data itself that you see here, that women are 54% less likely to have a sponsor, women are 24% less likely to get advice from senior leaders, but then the question is, how does that data play out in real world examples? And one thing that we found really both very interesting and a little depressing is that there are more men named with the first name John who run big companies around the world than all women combined. So I'm going to let that sink in for a second and repeat it, because there are more men named John who are running big companies around the world than all women CEOs combined. So the numbers don't add up and are really a direct reflection of that data we saw in this last slide, that women are less likely to get advice and less likely to have a sponsor and get those stretch assignments. So that's something that really you can see that direct connection between having that mentorship, having that person who's in your corner, and then taking on additional leadership roles.
Right, really surprising data. So next, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the phrase equal pay day, and let me just explain what that means. So equal pay day for the year 2018 for white non-Hispanic women was April 2nd, 2019. And what that means is a white woman would have to work for free until April 2nd, 2019 for her salary to catch up with that of a white non-Hispanic man. And then, of course, when you look at the data next to it in terms of how Black women, Native Hawaiian women, American Indian women, Hispanic women, I mean, the numbers just get worse and worse. So again, going back to the data on the slide 2 slides ago, if you're less likely to have someone who's promoting you at work, if you're less likely to have someone who's giving you advice or who's talking about you to leadership in your organization, it has a direct effect on your pay for the rest of your life. Well, I love this picture because to me, this is exactly what mentoring is all about. A mentor is someone who really sees the best in us, knows what we're capable of, and helps launch us in that direction. So we have another opportunity for you to give us some of your feedback. So when you're looking for a mentor, or if you've been a mentor yourself, what traits do you think would be valuable in a mentor? As you're looking around, what are you looking for in someone as you seek to find a mentor within or without work? Okay, we have trust, honesty, experienced, oh, these are great. Compassion.
Yeah.
Trust is the response that's getting the most play here. Someone who displays empathy, right? A champion. Yep. This is where you need someone to really be behind you. Dependable. Oh, I love that. Communication. A leader. Yep, excellent point. A supporter, experienced. And trust and communication come out as two of the winners here, two of the most likely responses. So thanks for giving us these responses. If we go to the next slide, You know, you've really touched on all these points. So when you read the research on traits of a good mentor, you really want someone who asks questions and doesn't give you answers. You know, someone who's able to explore with you what is it that what are your goals? What are you trying to get out of this relationship? Secondly, you really want someone who's proactive, that this person reaches out to you and and that the communication is all just one way. And, you know, certainly in your responses, you touched on that in terms of communication. Okay, next, we really want someone who sees more potential in us than we see in ourselves. I mean, sometimes people whom I've mentored are really surprised when I say, well, gee, you know, this is something that you would really be good at. And they go, oh, I hadn't really thought about that before. So really someone who looks at you and sees your strengths and is able to put a mirror up so that you can have those strengths reflected back to yourself. And another trait is certainly you want someone who really focuses on your success and not their own. If you find yourself with a mentor who's talking more and more about what they've accomplished, then how you can grow in your career and as a person, then you need to find a new mentor.
Absolutely. And I will jump in here and say, all of these traits that you, the audience, have mentioned in the slide previously, and that Jane has mentioned here, are embodied in Jane Brown, and who I appreciate deeply as a mentor. So I love this slide because it reminds me, not that I need that much reminding, but it reminds me how lucky I am to have Jane in my life as a friend and mentor, because all of the things you've all mentioned and that Jane has mentioned here are embodied in her.
Oh,
so I want to
thank you, Jessica. But really, I mean, I grow more from the experience of being a mentor and being connected with you than I feel like I'm giving. So thanks.
Well, we will now ask you all about the flip side of that conversation and that question. What are valuable traits in a mentee? Whether you're someone who is at a point in their career where they're looking to do some mentorship, or whether you're someone who's thinking about finding a mentor, doesn't matter really, but what are valuable traits in someone who is going to be a mentee as the other side of that relationship? Willingness to learn, absolutely, absolutely. So great, open-mindedness. Openness. Trust, absolutely. It's a two-way street for mentors and mentees. Commitment, absolutely. A hard worker, a good listener. These are fantastic. These are all such wonderful answers. Shortcut, okay. Communication, once again. Agile, what a great word. Absolutely. Wonderful. We'll give it just one more second and we'll move on. Conscientious. Oh, these are fabulous, everyone. Okay, so similar to the traits of a good mentor, a good mentee, there are many traits that are good, that are important in a good mentee. And I do want to direct everyone to the URL that's down on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, that TED.com URL, Are You Mentorable, which is a really wonderful resource and a great kind of way to think about your own traits and qualities and think about how you would be as a mentee. So some traits of a good mentee, and really these are a flip side of that good mentor coin. Good mentees under promise and over deliver, meaning that you're not spreading yourself too thin and making too many promises that you won't be able to keep at the end of the day. But then when you do under promise and when you say, I'll try and get to that 3 weeks from now, and you get to it a week and a half from now, you're really wowing your mentor, wowing the people around you, which is always a great thing, especially if your mentor is someone within your line of reporting or a senior part of the senior leadership in your office specifically. Good mentees mind their mentor's time. They're not totally running over the calendar and trying to put meetings on the calendar when their mentor has a completely packed schedule. They're neither a ghost nor a vampire, and I love these analogies because it's not someone who kind of disappears for weeks or months on end and then just pops up and goes, okay, now I need mentorship, and neither are they vampires. Again, kind of that goes hand in hand with minding their mentor's time, making sure that they are being mindful of the energy and the commitment, as everyone said here, the commitment that your mentor is putting into this relationship. A good mentee is engaged and energizing, open to feedback, agile, as someone said in the poll a minute ago. And finally, good mentees give back. Good mentees turn into good mentors. So that's a really important thing to know. And I think the hallmark of a good mentor-mentee relationship is that it turns the mentee into a mentor, and they start finding people around them who they are willing to give advice to and willing to kind of say, you know what, here's an idea that I had, or ask those open-ended questions to say, have you thought about this? So those are some of the traits of a good mentee. And I'll turn it back over. Oh.
This is Jane. Let me just add one more example of giving back. I mean, I love it when someone who I'm mentoring will occasionally send me an email saying, oh, I read this really great article, and I know this is something that you're interested in. Did you see this article? So I love that it becomes a two-way street. It's just another wonderful example of giving back.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jane, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so there's really an interesting dynamic going on right now in terms of the whole Me Too movement and how it might potentially affect mentoring women by men, which is something that I think is not a good thing for women. So I'd like to have you take an educated guess as to how less likely are men to mentor women in this whole Me Too era. Okay, so preponderance of people are thinking it's 30%. Okay, maybe let's go on to the next slide and we'll see what the answer is. So actually, the number is 50%. This was a recent poll by Lean In and SurveyMonkey, and 50% of men said they were less likely to mentor women given all that is happening, given the Me Too era that we're experiencing right now. And so, some of the articles that we read in terms of how do you counter this is to, number one, hold yourself and your colleagues accountable for parity. So, if you see a leader in your organization who's a man who's always meeting informally with men outside of the office, point that out to them and say, women need this kind of mentoring and support as well. And we need to make sure that they're getting equal attention in spite of what's happening socially at the moment. Secondly is, instead of running from discomfort, if you're a man, ask about it. So, if a woman is asking for some time from you for advice or mentoring, and it's your typical thing to like, oh, let's go out and meet for a drink, if that's how you would respond to it with a male in your organization, simply ask, would you be comfortable meeting me for a drink after work one day? And then if you're a woman, answer honestly, and maybe the answer is yes, or maybe the answer is, I'd feel more comfortable if I met you for coffee midday. Would that work for you? And lastly, we all need to be conscious about building mentor networks. Um, you know, find mentor networks at work, small groups work. It does, it helps with if you're uncomfortable in a one-on-one situation when it's a man and a woman, find some group settings that might work for you. Okay.
So we also wanted to, as we promised at the beginning of the presentation, share some personal stories about how we found mentors. And I'll kick this off and then ask Jane about her experiences as well. One thing that Jane mentioned a few slides back is to not discount the importance of and the validity of peer mentorship networks, not just kind of hierarchical mentorship relationships where it might be someone who is in more senior leadership, but also mentorship among your peers. And one thing that I've been really happy to begin cultivating really only in the last 6 weeks or so here in my office is a peer mentorship lunch for new managers. I'm at a point in my career where I'm managing someone for the first time, and my office and the office that I work in has seen a lot of growth. And so we have 5 or 6 people who are managing other people for the first time in their careers. And we all just kind of looked at each other one day and went, we have no idea how to do this. And as much advice as you can get doesn't really replace being able to go out to lunch once a month with peers across the organization and compare notes. So it's been a really nice experience where we started as a group of 3 and we've in 6 weeks expanded to 6 people, which has been just really fabulous and really valuable in terms of understanding where the shared experiences are and where we can come together and help one another and make suggestions and ask those open-ended questions of one another. I'm also very lucky to have a boss who is just an absolutely fabulous mentor and friend, and who is the embodiment of all of those traits of a good mentor, who asks those open-ended questions, who promotes the people who work for him, and tries to give everyone as much credit as they can take. It's been a really great experience working for him and under him and learning from him.
Great. This is Jane again, and one of the things that I just want to point out is that it rarely happens that you go up to someone and say, "Will you be my mentor?" It just doesn't happen like that. It's usually organic. And when I think back to the beginning of my career, I was, a very young staff person at NYU, and I had a vice president and then subsequently a dean to whom I reported, who they would include me in things. I don't even think I realized what was happening at that point, but the vice president would say, "Oh, come to this community meeting with me," or "We're having a cocktail for major donors this evening. I think you'd be a great person to tell some student stories while we're there." Or, give me stretch assignments where it was not part of my job description, but they gave me opportunities to grow. And I've just been blessed in my life to have so many wonderful mentors. And the other thing is that no matter where you are in your career, don't forget that you need that support. So in the fairly recent past, I had a situation at work that was keeping me up at night. I would wake up in the middle of the night and worry about it. And then one day I finally slapped my head and said, I have all these wonderful women colleagues in all these different colleges and universities that I've been privileged to know over the years. I need to call my friends and my colleagues and just brainstorm about what to do about this situation at work. So sometimes even when you're talking about mentoring from a mentoring standpoint, you still need that support and advice. And if you've built good networks along the way, you'll have those people there who will be great sounding boards for you.
And of course, not only is it important to find those human connections, but sometimes resources that are available in book form out there on the internet can be another way to try to start cultivating or get ideas to start cultivating those mentorship relationships. So we wanted to just have a quick screenshot of various resources that are available out there, focusing particularly on women and women's leadership and mentorship. But there's the Women's Network for the American Council on Education, Catalyst.com, which is a website for workplaces that work for women. Adam Grant has a fantastic TED Talk and podcast series, and is just really well known in general, talking about leadership and mentorship in general. You can see some other resources here. I personally, for those of you who might be in international education, am part of the Global Leadership League, which is a professional organization for women in international education that does peer mentorship groups several times throughout the year, and I actually just finished participating in one that was really great, talking about negotiation in the workplace, and that met once a month for 4 months, and it was a great experience, especially as I was getting ready to become a manager for the first time. There was a lot of peer support available through the Global Leadership League.
Right. And one other resource that I'd like to highlight is leanin.org. They have some wonderful videos on how to negotiate a pay raise, all sorts of data, or all sorts of great resources. And most of you probably associate the Lean In movement with Sheryl Sandberg. Adam Grant, whose book is on this resource page, is a psychologist at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. He has a wonderful website and quite a bit on mentoring.
So as we prepare to wrap up and take your questions, we want to open up the floor to all of you once again and ask you, what's the big surprising idea? What is your main takeaway from today's conversation? Whether it's something that you already knew but you've had reinforced, whether it's a new idea, we want your feedback about what's the thing you're going to remember after we finish today's conversation. Yes, indeed, the percentage of Johns in leadership positions.
That is one of our favorite slides.
It really is. Is it our favorite, or is it our most hated? It's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah, true.
Okay. All right, it seems like that. Oh, okay. Yes, indeed. The pay gap between men and women, how many men are responding to Me Too by moving away from mentoring. I'm a big fan of peer mentoring.
Yeah, and just related to the whole Me Too movement and the reluctance of men to mentor, I mean, let's not forget it. If there are so many men in those leadership positions, if they're not willing to, support women and sponsor women and mentor women, that really can have devastating consequences for moving women into leadership positions.
Exactly, and then we end up with more Johns as leaders of companies.
Right.
Great. Seems like we've hit a lull here, so we'll move on.
Thank you for those responses. So whenever I do a workshop, I always like people to walk away with an action step. So we're going to ask you to think about, okay, what's your first step? We all know that an action plan, you have to have a step 1 before you have a steps 2 through 10. So I'd like you to think about right off the top of your head, and we'll go to the next slide. What will be your next step?
And as our responses come in, as people think about what their next step is going to be, I realized something that I meant to mention back when we were talking about how we've found mentors. One of the kind of conversational flags that I've noticed in the last few years for myself, whenever there is a mentorship opportunity that comes up, it is usually preceded by the conversational flag. You know who you should talk to, dot dot dot, from another friend or colleague, and those suggestions have usually resulted in some really wonderful either peer or kind of more hierarchical mentorship opportunities, and have been and I've come to learn that that particular suggestion is one that I should listen to, especially if the person who's making the suggestion is someone that I really trust.
Right. There are some benefits also of looking for mentors within your current organization, but there are also benefits to looking at mentors outside your current organization. Sometimes it's great to get that outside perspective, and a good way to do that is through professional organizations. Put yourself out there, volunteer, find a new network of people who are in the same field. Oh, that's great. Thank you. So looking in your professional organizations. Yep, you're right. There's one comment here about the work dynamics. You're right. It's important who you seek out, and um, it can be complicated.
Absolutely. Nothing happens in a vacuum, as they say. And so you're absolutely right that understanding those dynamics and understanding what the various connections might be in the politics of a situation is really important. And that awareness, that self-awareness and that external awareness is incredibly necessary and valuable.
Great. So the next slide gives you our contact information. I know we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have or be in touch. This is Jane, and I think, if somebody would like to be in touch about any of this content, I think it would be preferable for me if you would do it on a weekend, just to make sure that I don't miss an email and get, busy during the course of a workday. But I'd be very happy to, provide any feedback that I can about this topic.
Yeah, and the same goes for me, absolutely. This is Jessica speaking. I'm happy to connect with anyone via email if you have more questions or concerns. This is obviously a topic that Jane and I both love to talk about, so it would be a pleasure to connect offline with anyone who's participating today.
If you have questions now, we'll start our Q&A. You can please feel free to submit your questions through the questions window, and we'll just wait for them to come in. I also want to note that after the webinar tomorrow, we'll send out a thank you email for everyone who attended, and attached will be a list of questions and resources that Jane and Jessica have graciously provided, so you'll get that in your email tomorrow. So we have one question that's come through, and Jane, you had mentioned it will be good to have a mentor or sponsor outside of your current network. Do you think it'd be helpful to have a mentor that's not in the same field or industry as you?
I think it depends. I think a mentor should have some understanding of the field that you're in. So I'm in higher education. I probably would not go to somebody who works on Wall Street because I'm not sure they would understand the culture. But I do think if you're looking for information about what your strengths are or how you might understand an administrative question at your organization, then I think you have a little bit more flexibility there. I think you have to think about what your goals are when you're seeking a mentor, and that will help you answer that question.
Thank you. Jessica, this question's for you. So in my place of work, my manager is unfortunately not the most supportive, and I'm just wondering if my manager is not championing me, what should I do? I don't want to overstep or like step on anyone's toes or ruffle anyone's feathers. So how do I go about finding a mentor in my workplace?
Sure. Specifically within your workplace, I think that these are moments when, and not to sound like a broken record, but when peer mentorship really can become an incredibly valuable resource. Because especially in situations where you have a manager who might be difficult, you may not have the best relationship, being able to build that peer kind of network and that web, that synergistic web, to help brainstorm ideas, brainstorm ways to perhaps manage up if that's something that you have to do, or manage around in certain situations. I don't want to assume what the context is. Those peer networks can be really, really valuable. And then, of course, if you are open to looking outside your organization as well, to people who are either in the same field or adjacent to your field, as Jane was saying before, that can be a good outlet, especially if you're not going to be working with someone who is specifically in your field, depending on how small your field is. Sometimes we work in fields where everyone knows everyone and it's 2 degrees of separation at best. And so being able to find someone outside but in an adjacent field who might have a good perspective on your situation could also be valuable. But of course, if there's something you want to talk about in more detail and connect offline, I'm absolutely happy to share more ideas that way as well.
So also kind of in the same vein, someone asked, how do you even do peer mentoring? How do you even start this? What is that first action step?
So I'll describe how it came about for me. A lot of times it's just, hey, let's grab lunch, and putting a regular recurring lunch or a meeting on the calendar. Maybe it's half an hour. You grab coffee once every 2 weeks, once a month with someone. The way that this particular peer mentorship group came about was a colleague and I were talking, and I was expressing nervousness about the fact that I was going to be someone's manager for the first time. I want to be a good boss. I want to make sure that I'm supportive for my new assistant director. I want to make sure that they're feeling fulfilled and challenged in the right ways in their job, but also making sure that I draw those appropriate boundaries and all of the things that a good manager should be. And I was expressing some nervousness about this because it was my first time ever foraying into these waters. And she mentioned that she had been talking to another colleague about those same concerns. And she had been managing people for the first time for about a year, and she offered to grab lunch with the two of us to share some ideas and share her experiences coming up on the 12-month cycle of being a manager for the first time. And the 3 of us got together and got lunch. We talked about the challenges we're facing, the frustrations, the how do you handle this, all of those different questions. And then we realized that there are other people in our office who are in the same exact situation, who are also approaching the idea of managerial duties with a little bit of trepidation and a little bit of nervousness. And so then we invited them along, and now all of a sudden it is a formal, official, monthly thing that we just kind of created on our own because we needed it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Let me just wait and see if I have any more questions that come through. If you do have a question for Jane and Jessica, please feel free to submit them in the question pane through GoToWebinar.
Sure. And as we wait, I'll also mention, I realize that I'm extremely fortunate and I'm in a workplace that does support the idea of people making a roadmap where there isn't one. And I know that not every workplace is like that. Some places are much more rigid and not as agile, not as flexible. So I know that I'm coming at this with a certain degree of kind of privilege in this situation as well.
Right. This is Jane. Just another thought on that. I mean, one of the other ways I think to find someone who could be a mentor is, if you're in a meeting and you look around and there's someone who's displaying skills that you admire, just as Jessica said, go up to that person afterwards and say, gee, I'd love to hear about your career path. I have some questions. Could we grab coffee sometime? So basically somebody displaying the skills that you'd like to grow within yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great suggestion.
So Jane, I just got a question and I would like to direct it to you. So I have a few mentors, but how many mentors is too many mentors? I'm just worried that they're all very helpful. Some of them are the exact same field as me, some of them are not. But I'm worried that maybe some of their feedback might conflict with each other. So how many is too many?
Well, first of all, I would say that the person is really blessed if you have several different mentors. And I would say differing perspectives are important. And, if you're getting different perspectives from these different people, then I think you can take that and analyze it and think about it. And, one mentor's suggestions or, questions where they're prompting you to think about things further, that may be useful in one situation, and then in a different situation, someone else's perspective may be more valuable. So the other thing is that, a mentor relationship doesn't have to last forever. I mean, there are some people, who come into our lives and they're there for a short while, but they've had a large influence. So, as long as you continue to find the relationship valuable and you feel that it's helping you to grow, I would say go for it and help other people find mentors, since you've been so blessed to find so many.
So also kind of in the same vein, I have another question so this is a person who is a mentor and they're concerned about their mentee. They've reached out a couple of times. At the beginning, it was a great relationship. And then lately they haven't heard too much from their mentee and they don't want to leave them out cold, but they also don't want to keep spending time and energy on someone who's not reciprocating back.
Jessica, you want to take that one?
Sure. I mean, I think for me, when I've been in situations like that, whether with friends or mentors or really anyone, I'll usually reach out a few times and then send maybe a final kind of button of an email to say, it seems like you're really busy right now. I just want you to know that if you have time in the future, I really would love to get together again. I'd love to reopen the lines of communication. There's no pressure to do so, but I just want you to know that I'm here to help support if you want to continue talking in the future. And I know that for me, those kind of communications can often feel fraught with emotion or judgment in one direction or another. So I probably overcorrect in terms of saying just so you know I'm here and there's no pressure to reach out, but just letting them know that, you've reached out a few times and you are open to continuing the relationship, but you're not going to just keep reaching out endlessly without any feedback from them because it seems like they're being a little bit of a ghost, as we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So we'll wait just another minute, see if we have any last minute questions. Of course, if you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable asking now, or you just can't finish formulating them, please feel free to email Jane or Jessica. Their contact information is on the screen right now. All right, well, I think we don't seem to have any more. So Jane and Jessica, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise with the TC community. A video of this presentation will be available on our website in a few days. That URL is www.tc.edu/alumni/career-webinars. Please visit our website for more information about our monthly webinars and upcoming events. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Alyssa, thanks for everything you've done to make this happen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night.